Hi, I'm Lee Maxey, the CEO at MindMax, and I'm grateful to be here with Marqus Dorame. He is the Director of Recruitment and Enrollment at Arizona Online, and we were fortunate to be able to be in a session together yesterday, and I'm interested to hear more about what Arizona Online is doing from a recruitment standpoint. So great to see you, and glad you're here. And so when we talk with schools, when we look at a school or look at a situation, we organize around people, process, technology, and culture, and look at what are the things that are enabling or maybe not enabling or not optimized, and be interested in those sort of dimensions, things that you think are working well and from the recruitment standpoint. So,
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Lee. I think those four elements, people, process, technology, culture, are really at the heart of what we're trying to do at Arizona Online. I think from a people's perspective, having the student first and having a student first approach has really served our well. And we've seen a lot of success with the people that we've been able to retain, the good talent that we have on our teams. I think that lends to our culture as well. We have a really strong foundation in training and building connection to not only the institution, but Arizona Online. We see that translate to the students that we're here to support. Like most institutions, we face challenges, but I think Arizona Online has found a way to come together at every obstacle that we've faced. Again, putting the student first. In the technology space, we've been able to find some creative ways to connect with students. From a recruitment standpoint, we've partnered with Juji, which is a cognitive AI solution for chatbot, which allows our office to be available for students 24/7. Lives on our website. We have dedicated coordinators to ensure that those workflows are operating as they should be. And we're able to answer as many questions as possible, provide students with the information that they're looking for. And it also taps into our dialer system that allows those students to connect with our office in the modality that they prefer. So they can live chat, they can call into our office. So we've tried our best to mesh the technology, the processes, the people, and the culture.
So you're meeting people where they are. That's great. And from a process standpoint, you mentioned workflows. We know that's not easy. So, can you talk about what kinds of things you did to design and then optimize some of those, or are optimizing some of those workflows?
We really started with a dedicated enrollment counselor to help every student that walks through our virtual doors. 90% of our recruitment is done digitally, phone calls, emails. But we do have a small portion of in-person recruitment as well. What's helped us over time is constant reflection, constant fine-tuning, trying to understand how we can improve. When we go back to culture, we've also established a culture of continuous feedback from those on the ground floor, connecting with students, and how can we make processes smoother? How can we increase efficiencies and minimize the amount of double work that's needed? We still have a long way to go, but I think as a foundation, knowing that there is constant room for improvement is what we strive to do, to try to make the process as easy for the student as possible. Many times we've found if we can make it easier for the student, we can also make it easier for the staff.
Right. Less friction for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's an example of something that you got some feedback from someone and workshopped it or whatever? What's an example of something that you got feedback on and then worked to implement or design things differently? What's a good example of something that worked?
One that comes to mind is we had an increase, of course, during the pandemic of international students looking to explore their options with the University of Arizona. Being unable to attend the physical campus in Tucson, Arizona Online was a natural option to express their interest. But what we found was that we had a hard time moving students through the recruitment funnel, and for various reasons. But of course, there's more complexities with an international student than the domestic student. Well, we were, again, trying to put the student first, assigning each and every one of these students, these leads that were being generated to our staff to then do personalized outreach. Well, it was too much. It was too much volume. And we, of course, didn't want to burn out the staff, trying to keep people first. So we implemented a system where we would then, after a student has requested information or started an application, and we noticed that maybe their location was outside of the United States or their phone number was outside of the United States, non-North American formatted number, we would send them an additional request for more information. how would you like to be communicated? Do you prefer email? Is phone, because of the region you're in, maybe not the best option? We want to keep you in mind. And we saw a real good increase with students that were responding to that. So it started with an email, a form to follow, and we had above a 20% response rate for that email that was going out,
Great.
which is pretty high. This was an email that's going out to thousands of students that otherwise may not have continued their engagement. That reflected onto the staff, who was then able to actually engage with students that wanted more information and weren't just clicking something on a web.
Right. I mean, it shows a high level of engagement, and we all know that engagement is really the goal.
Those are the students that we want to work with.
The more engaged, that's a very strong signal. So that's great. You mentioned you're using some automation. I won't say AI, but but can you talk about where you see things heading in terms of that blend between automation, personalization? You guys are obviously doing things at a great scale, and I love that most schools that we talk with are looking to improve their scale. And can you talk about how you think about what needs to be scaled and how you scale it versus what and automated, and what you want to continue to do personally, and what are your criteria is for how you go about that?
It's a great question. I think AI is going to play a profound role in the next several years when it comes to recruitment, because I think things have to be more personalized. You have to find a way to cut through. I mean, it's a competitive space. Students are shopping around. We know that students typically will go with a brand that they recognize and that they feel a sense of connection with. However, you have more options than ever at this point. And you saw the transition from no outreach, where maybe there were schools that couldn't dedicate a certain person just to the recruitment. And then you saw internal teams be built. You saw OPMs be connected with. And as those teams started to form, now everybody's doing outreach. But now you have to do outreach at a personal level. So I think the differentiator will be establishing an AI component or tool that can deliver personalized outreach for the student on the very front end. And then you are able to introduce the personal aspect with a staff member from University of Arizona Online to then guide them the rest of the way. But if you can find a way to cut through and give that student exactly what they're looking for, they ask for more information about a particular program. So that is the information that they should be delivered. There's a lot of human error when you try to manage too much with only people. So introducing some automations, whether that is only on the communication side or even through the actual application itself, and having an assistant be able to guide you through those forms and those processes. I think students will then recognize that they'll miss the person, they'll miss the individual component that comes with it, and that's what will yield in the end when you have established that connection with the university.
I used to work in admissions, and I'd have 100 folders a week, and reading period was many weeks, and fully immersed in those 100 folders. I recognized patterns. I could as a human, I was like, oh, these are easy to identify patterns. What are those triggers in your mind of where it does, I'll call it, escalate to the human? Like, what are the factors that trigger, we should get a person involved here?
I think when elements related to, at-risk students, when you start to think about DEI, the population of students that would otherwise go missed or unseen, given the current sort of levers that are being pulled, I think those are the areas that this could be escalated to. So if you have a student that otherwise maybe has only applied to your school and not applied to any other schools, and they're throwing a Hail Mary, I think that is where the person should intervene and try to give a holistic understanding of what could this mean for that person's future.
Right. Along that, we do a lot with stopped out students, re-enrollment. Can you describe your feedback loop all the way through to graduation and back to you in terms of how that changes how you engage with students that you might early identify as, these people need a little bit more scaffolding, or they need, how is that working now, or how do you envision or want that to work going forward?
It's a great question. I think that's something that Arizona Online is working towards. We're not there just yet. We have a wonderful online student success team. So structurally, the Recruitment and Enrollment Office handles all of the recruitment components. Unfortunately, we don't do the enrollment piece. So because of the nature of how the institution is set up, all advising and enrollment is actually done by the colleges. So we help students all the way up until they're active within their programs, but then we hand them back to the colleges to then continue with their programs, all the way through graduation. So we currently don't have those feedback loops established. I think in the future, it'd be wonderful to be able to grow out the online student success portion, but also tap into our continuing education division, which we used to be a part of, has since separated, but I think that's a wonderful non-credit space to be able to continue students in the trajectory that they plan to go in, whether that's certificates or other options that they may want to explore, because we historically have worked with all of the undergraduate programs that are offered through Arizona Online, but are now getting into the graduate space. The graduate recruitment is all done decentralized by the colleges themselves. And we want to be able to leverage the success that we've seen in the undergraduate space for as many programs that will partner with us to assist them on the front end, have a point of contact. We know that these graduate coordinators and they're wearing multiple hats. They're doing many, many things. So I think being able to not only assist them so that they can focus on retention, persisting those students, and then we can establish those feedback loops. So we're in the early stages of really looking at this entire journey, but I know there's some good plans in the works.
Large organization, what you just described about starting to work with the graduate colleges, always exciting to try and navigate internal organizations. Can you talk about how you're making a case to work with you as a shared, I assume, shared services model with these graduate colleges? What are the kinds of things that they're asking for in terms of proof points, or what's the approach you're taking to try and demonstrate, hey, work trust, or whatever factors you think are important, or approaches you think are important to be able to do that?
It's a great question. I think one of the elements that's been very helpful is that we know that most graduate programs, not all, of course, are in need of assistance. So when it comes to answering that question, replying to that email for the student who only wants more information, often that is the lowest priority in terms of all of the things that the coordinators or program directors have to handle on a daily basis. So where we can come in and leverage, again, our success on the undergraduate side, and having someone dedicated to their program. At this point, they've been very excited to have that assistance. We also had a sort of proof of concept approach where we started with one program in our Master's in Public Health. Saw that as an opportunity to be able to translate some of the things that did work in the past. We saw success there, and then we're able to leverage that into other conversations. We recently just finished one of the last OPM contracts that the university had for our College of Engineering, and that was 8 different programs at the graduate level that we then were able to step in and assist. So when you have a College of Engineering, you have the high-profile programs. They also help us in spreading the word of what we're trying to do. It starts little by little, but most programs really want somebody dedicated to their program who understands and is willing to learn and then share that with students. And that's what we will look to provide. We also share back regular numbers and progress along the way. So that transparency is also a big factor for most programs. They want to know how they're getting their students. They want to know how they're being qualified, and ultimately how many students are going to be making their way toward the program. And that's what we look to provide.
I imagine the engineering school wanted to go deep into that data. So on that, can you talk about that transition and the things that you did, the things that worked, the things that were more difficult as you transition from an OPM8? That's what a lot of schools are trying to do right now. And so can you talk about how that went and how you made it succeed, and where the friction or difficult points were?
It all came down to communication. So within our College of Engineering, we have the smaller programs, whether that's electrical and computer systems, software, and they all run a little differently. They all have their own quirks and unique characteristics. So trying to find the best communication style and approach for each of these areas was the key. And once we were able to establish that communication, then we started to work on trust.
So communication with prospective students or communications within the college?
Within the college.
Got it. Okay.
To then
Gotcha.
convey to them how we could best
So a
serve them.
culture and communications within the university. Okay.
Yeah, and we were able to translate that into how we communicate to the students about their program. Building trust was another major component. Understanding what was important to the program and what was not important to the program. And then also inserting what is important for the student to know. So between many, many conversations and meetings, we were able to identify the key markers that each program was looking for and what they viewed as success. And that was important to establish as well. They had experienced a certain level of service with an OPM that naturally, our job was to come in and try to provide the exact same level of service, if not better, if we could. So through many conversations and understanding their relationship with the previous OPM, things that they liked and did not like, and then how we could leverage current processes, how we could evolve current processes or create something new to fit the needs of the program. That was what our goal was. We're still working towards a few of those goals, but we were able to have a really solid fall recruitment. This process really started at the beginning of the year. And unfortunately, there were some obstacles that we hadn't foreseen, but we were able to navigate through and ultimately bring a good recruitment class for those many programs that we brought on.
You did a great presentation yesterday, talked about, inserting something, I'll call it an accelerator or a catalyst, an influencer, and to improve some of your conversions in relationship to your pipeline. Can you talk about the germ of where that came from in terms of why you tried it, how it went, and result-wise, what you think your next step is? So
it was a very excited opportunity. It was something that Arizona Online had never done before. So the ability to send newly admitted students some kind of welcome package is not a new idea, but actually I have to give credit to the online student success team at Arizona Online. This was their idea, but we were able to leverage it in the recruitment space. So we continue to partner with them. They did a lot of the groundwork in terms of finding the vendor, identifying the items that were going to be sent to students. We wanted something that was new to Arizona Online, but students were somewhat familiar with. So we didn't go too far outside the box. We saw some positive feedback, some positive data, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done. One of the elements we highlighted was in the future, if we're able to do this again, I think it's critical to get student feedback, survey them in some ways to know, at least from their perspective, anecdotally, how much did this move the needle? Were they already planning to attend the University of Arizona, or was this something that they expected, that they wanted already, or was this a surprise to them? These are brand new students to the institution, so what kind of effect did that have truly? I think the data showed that there was promise there, but it wasn't really significant enough to know. So we need some more data. I'd love to do another round. I also think the timing in which we initially did the pilot was between recruitment cycles when we were able to have contracts signed and actually begin to move. So thinking more strategically about when that happens, I think that can have better results as well. But it was something exciting, again, something we had never done before. And I think it's an example of one of the creative ways that we're trying to find students where they are, understand their motivations a bit more, and then help them through to the end.
Well, many, if not all, schools are struggling with their recruitment and enrollment efforts. And I'll call desperate times lead to desperate measures a little bit. For some of these schools, it's existential. Where do you see recruiting and enrollment heading in the next year or two, and the kinds of things that can help some of those or good practices that can help schools succeed in this increasingly difficult time right now, whether it's undergrad or grad?
I think the next few years is going to be an interesting time in exploration. And I think some new and creative ways are going to be discovered and I think shared, hopefully through experiences like this conference. I think more institutions will actually give students the opportunity to share what they would prefer. So instead of creating a system or a strategy that is one size fits all, and this is just the approach that we have, I think more institutions will start to lean towards giving the autonomy and the student the opportunity to then share back how they want to be communicated with. Because that also shows some level of engagement. And that also allows the recruitment staff to then focus on where they need to be for that student. But I also foresee, again, in a time of expiration, there's going to be a lot of calling campaigns. There's going to be a lot of text messaging campaigns. And I think it'll create a lot of noise as well. So I think there's going to be a period of chaos, if you will, within the recruitment space. But that will then lead to new innovative ways to be able to connect with students. And I think as long as institutions are able to share their mission, their goals, the value that they bring to the student, that'll always shine through as well.
We've actually found that calling has had better receptivity since COVID than prior to COVID. People are open to that. So, some closing comments. Anything that you want to talk about related to enrollment and recruiting?
Yeah, I still think and believe that nurturing the student is what's best for the institution and also the student. Recruitment, from my perspective, is not just lead generation, but it is also the first opportunity that students have to connect with somebody at the institution. So it is that first impression, it is that first point of contact. And I think when that's done really well and successful, it creates a wonderful experience for not only the student, but the staff and the faculty as well. And I think it starts with recruitment, so that's why I'm happy to be here.
Well, really great to chat. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Marqus.
Lee.
Thanks.